Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, we are going to actually deploy our application using Heroku to the web. This is probably the most exciting, in my opinion, video in the entire course because we have made a cool thing, but now we are sharing this cool thing with the world. So you should already be logged into Heroku from the end of the last video, and now you should be in a dashboard that looks something like this. It's possible that Heroku might bring you to a little splash page that says create your first app or something like that. Either way, that's what we're doing. We're going to create a new app. So if it looks like this, great. If not, just get to the place where you can create a new app. We do not want a pipeline. Give your app a name. I'm going to call mine Yelp Comics. You have to use dashes. You can't use underscores or spaces. I'm going to pick United States. You don't want to add to a pipeline and create app. Now we have this new app, and here is the dashboard for that app. You can look at a lot of different things, such as the overview, whatever resources are used, so on and so forth. By default, you already have the Heroku CLI installed on your Gorm IDE. So I can close that tab. So basically, we're just going to follow the steps right here where it says to deploy using Heroku. Heroku login. Heroku login. Now the catch with this is that on this machine we only have a console interface. We only have a terminal command line interface. We don't have a browser. And if we just do Heroku login, it will try and open a browser for us and it will fail. So instead we need to use -I. So enter your login credentials. And say now you're logged in. Awesome. So the next step after logging in, it says to create a new Git repository. Well, we've already got one. So we don't need to cd into my project. We're already there. We don't need to do git init. We've already done that. This is what we need. Heroku git remote -a Yelp Comics. So I'll just copy this, paste it in here. Heroku git remote -a Yelp Comics. Yes, I know there's an update. So it's set git remote Heroku to that. Now we've already got a remote. We've got a remote to GitHub called Origin. Now we have a remote to Heroku called Heroku. So if we look back over here again, deploy it. Commit your code to the repository and deploy it to Heroku using git. Git push Heroku master. So we can come in here and git push Heroku master. Now I'll go ahead and warn you, this is not going to work as it sits. We're going to have to make a few changes to our application before it actually works. But this is going to go ahead and push it to Heroku, and we'll let it run, and it will try and start the application, and then we'll figure out what we need to fix in a minute. Build succeeded. Yay. This app may not specify any way to start a node process. There is your problem. So we've deployed to Heroku. So if we go back here, let's refresh. Look at let's open our app. Right up here you can click open app. It's not going to work. Well, there's a problem. We don't know what the problem is, but there is a problem. So let's check the logs. You can do this from the Heroku CLI with the command Heroku logs --tail. So let's try that. Heroku logs --tail. Make this a little bit bigger so we can see. All right, so just scroll up a little bit. There we go. So starting process with npm start, error missing script start. Error complete log of this can be found. So basically we don't have a script set to start our process. It's trying to start it, but it's not working. So now that we can kind of identify the problem a little bit, let's see what we can do to fix it. So there's no starting process. In order to fix that, we have to come into our package.json, which we haven't looked at in about forever. And then we have this little section called scripts. Now right now, scripts is an object, or it's a JSON object that has test, echo, and basically this is just say, hey, there's no tests, and exit. So we can go ahead and just delete that. We don't need test at all. Instead, we want start. And our start script is going to say node app.js. The way that npm works is that you can do as many scripts as you want inside of this scripts object, and it will call them by using npm and then whatever their name is. So npm start would run this code. npm, I don't know, test fix the indentation, would run this code. Maybe node test.js, whatever. That's going to run this code. So we don't care about test, but we do very much care about start, because what Heroku is doing is it's running npm start. And the reason it's crashing is because we didn't have a start script. So let's save that. Can close out of that, Control-C, git status, and we'll see that there's a change to package.json. So git add that, git commit with the message of added start script, git push origin master. That will push it to GitHub. Git push origin Heroku master. This will push it to Heroku. And then it will attempt to rebuild. And here's another clue. This is still probably not going to work unless Heroku has changed the way that they do ports, because we're currently trying to serve it to port 3000, which is not going, shouldn't work. We might get lucky, but it shouldn't. Let's try it. Let's refresh our application. Nope, still an application error. So let's check the logs and see why. Heroku logs --tail. Cannot find module /config. The reason is because we're not including config in our GitHub repo, which is good. We don't want to do that. We don't want to include that. So we got to figure out how we're going to get around this. So in order to fix this, we need to use configuration variables, which I have just Googled here and came up with the wonderful documentation from Heroku. Basically, you just set them in the CLI. You do Heroku config, and then you add them like this, :set, and then you add your key value pair. So we have a few things we need to set inside of our CLI. So let's just go ahead and open config.js. Close these, don't need it anymore. So all I need from this is just this connection string right here. So I'm going to copy that. Let's Control-C to cancel that process and clear this so we have a little bit of room to work. So back over here we have how to set the configuration variables. So Heroku config :get is to get it. Heroku config :set is to set it. Then you do the name of it equals whatever it is. So Heroku config :set, and the name is going to be, we'll call it db connection string equals, and I'm going to paste that big old long string in there, and then hit enter. And it will set that configuration variable. So we don't need config.js anymore. So now that that's set, we just have to go into app.js and tell it to use it. So what we're going to do is right now it is importing config, and if once it realizes that config's not there, it's crashing. So we're going to wrap the config in a try-catch, because we still want config to work when we're developing here. We just don't want it to work in Heroku. So try to do this. Catch. I'm just going to console.log could not import config. This probably means you're not working locally. And then console.log e, just in case. So it's trying to import config. If it works, awesome. If not, it's going to just console.log a couple things and go on about its business. And the other thing we have to do is when we are using this, because right now we're trying to do this, so we're going to also wrap this in a try-catch. Try to do this. If it works, awesome. If not, catch console.log could not connect using config. This probably means you are not working locally. So, but we still have to connect. So what we're going to do is we're going to do mongoose.connect, and this is where we're going to use process .env dot, and whatever we named it, db underscore connection underscore string, comma, and then use these same arguments. What this does, the process.env is the environmental variables. Environmental variables are what we set right here. So it's going to try first to connect using config. However, if config doesn't exist, this try is going to fail and it's going to throw an error, which means this catch block will run. So catch is going to connect, say, okay, well, you're not working locally because you couldn't get config, therefore you're working in Heroku, so we're going to use process.env, and that should be lowercase, I don't know why I uppercased it, process.env dot db connection string. And then we need to do one more thing to change this. Down here where it says app.listen, right now we're doing 3000. We want to do process.env.port or 3000. What this will do is it's going to try to use this if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it will then default to 3000. But if this exists, it'll use it. That's important because this is what Heroku is going to be looking for. And there's one more thing we need to do to make our application more secure before actually pushing it to Heroku, and that is to do the same type of thing with our express session secret. So let's scroll up till we find express session, and right now you can see the secret is just this random string of gibberish. And this can be anything we want it to be. The important parts are that it needs to be complex, it needs to be long, and it needs to be secret. Because this is basically the key that we use whenever encrypting and decrypting these session cookies. And if an attacker is able to get a hold of this, it means they can forge cookies, which means that they can sign in as whatever users they want. So we're going to do the same thing here. So let's go ahead and copy this and move it to our config. So we've got DB. So let's do express session. That's going to be another object, and we're going to have the secret, which is going to be that string. So we can save that, and over here, instead of having the string, have it be process.env. We'll call it es secret, or config.express session.secret. So it's going to try this first, and if it's there, awesome. If not, it'll default to this. So now we have to make this. And I've already got that copied, so let's come down to our terminal and do Heroku config :set, and we called it es underscore secret equals that. Alright, that has been updated. There is actually one more thing we need to do to make this work the way it's supposed to. Right now, in our, where is it, the try-catch things, we are using const to define this. One of the kind of the drawbacks, if you will, with using const and let instead of using var is that it is scoped to this block. So right now we are only creating this constant inside of here, so it's only accessible within here now that we are try catching it. So instead we need to use var here. The other option would be to let config and then set it inside of here, which is perfectly fine too if that's what you want to do. I have no problem doing it one way or the other. I'm going to do it this way because it is only one line instead of two lines, but they're both perfectly fine. So let's save that and let's try it. No daemon. There we go. It is running. Excellent. That is what we need. Then we need to git add app.js, git status. That should be the only change. Yeah. Git commit, add process.env, vars, git push. I'm just going to do Heroku master, and we'll update to GitHub later. Now it's going to push, it's going to try and restart, and let's see if this works. Notice that I'm going through the entire process that you would go through, even though I knew these things were coming, because I don't want you to be freaked out when you see the errors. You're always going to have errors. This is oftentimes error-driven development as a process. So now it's running, so now let's go back and let's try and refresh our page, and hallelujah, it works. Enter. Heck yeah, let's try and use it. Let's add a comic. Nope, you can't because you have to log in. Log in as test. Let's see if it lets us. It works. What that tells me, because I was able to log in as a user I had already created, is that it connected to the database successfully. This application is now deployed to the web. Your application, if you followed along, is now deployed to the World Wide Web. You are able to access this from any computer at any time, and it is freaking amazing. Looking back here, let's look at our dashboard. You'll see that I've got these that are ZZZ asleep and these that are awake. The asleep ones means that if I try and access them, it will take a while to get to them. For example, Max is a Good Boy is a page I made for my dog because I am a nerd. I open it and you'll notice it takes it a little bit because what happens is the VM that's running it is asleep and it doesn't wake up until you try and access it. Now it accesses it. And it will load the page and it will do what it's supposed to do. And this is all the page does. I just wanted to, here's just him as a puppy. So if I refresh, now it loads instantly because that VM is running and it's up and running. But it'll go to sleep after about 20 minutes of no activity. So this is obviously not good for a production web application, but it works fine for testing things out and for trying things. And the last thing I want to show you is how you can tell whether you're using free or paid applications. To do that, you can just click on the name of your application and under Overview, look under Dyno Formation, and it'll tell you how much it's costing you per month, and you can configure your dynos to determine what type. Because right now, by default, you'll be using free dynos, and you can change that type depending on what you want. So you've got a free one, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's entirely free. The main difference between free and hobby is that free will go to sleep, and hobby will not. Hobby will stay awake, and it's $7 per dyno. Dyno is their name for basically a VM per month. So keep it free until you need it to be awake all the time, and then upgrade to the hobby. You'll see here on my personal one, the dyno was costing me $7 a month. Configure, change dyno type, and you can see it's hobby. In this video, we did a few things. First, we created our app on Heroku. We called it, I called mine Yelp Comics. You could have called yours whatever you wanted to. Then we went into our app.js and we used the Heroku CLI to push our YelpClone repo to Heroku. Now this crashed and it did not work because we had to make a few changes. We had to update our config import to use a try-catch. And because of that, we aren't sure if we have config or not, so we had to come down and put our database connection inside of a try-catch. And then we also had to come down to the bottom where app.listen and tell it to listen to process.env.port or 3000. So if this is available, use that. Otherwise, use that. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to help. Thanks.